We are born, in His name we live, and in His name we die. Here and there, our souls prostrate to their Creator with humbleness and piety, and creatures do dhikr all the time, here and there. La 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 la, la 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 la.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome, dear viewers, to our final and last episode of Here and There. It's been a fantastic series. We've talked about so many different topics, but today is going to be our final discussion. But before we conclude on this beautiful series, I would like to remind everybody that we are heading into the 28th night of Ramadan, and we have not completed Ramadan yet. The Prophet ﷺ, he told us that al-a'malu bil khawatim, that your actions are judged by how you conclude them. So let's all still be very serious on the 28th, and we still have the 29th night as well, and we will conclude Ramadan with strength, inshallah. The Prophet ﷺ, he told us about the people that have the characteristics, have the behavior of the people of paradise, but when it comes to the last moments of their lives, they will do actions and they will end up in the hellfire. And he also told us about people who will have the characteristics, the behavior of the people of hellfire, and prior to their death they will do an action that will lead them into paradise. So my dear brothers, my dear sisters, it is the end action that counts. It's the 28th. We still have the 29th. Let's go hard. The finish line is right in front of us. Let's keep working. Let's keep making dua. Let's keep praying. Inshallah, Allah will accept. Today we have a very special program with a very special guest as well. We are going to another country. We've visited so many countries, but today really it's unique. We're going to a country that is very rich with Islamic history. It's described as the Golden Age. Any guesses where we're going? Any thoughts? It's where Islam really prevailed, where our literature, our philosophy, our architecture, our investments and libraries really became manifested. We're going to go, inshallah ta'ala, to Andalus, or what's known as Spain. So inshallah, join us with your questions, with your comments on our program, and inshallah, we'll make it interactive. Let's turn to my right. We have with us Brother Omar. Brother Omar, this is going to be the last time for Ramadan, inshallah, for 2017, that I'm going to be introducing you. So it's an honor and it's a privilege as always, and welcome you, and I say assalamu alaikum.
It's an honor for me and I'm very happy and very sad at the same time, because this is the last episode. And mashallah for the introduction. And I also like the hadith that you said, of course, about that people, they make maybe bad deeds for the rest of their lives, and just in a moment they can fix stuff, and the opposite is true. But I just want to add something.
Please.
There is hadith in Muslim that describes the meaning of this hadith, because sometimes this hadith makes like some confusion to people. How is it possible, like I'm doing good deeds and the last moment I just do bad deeds and taken to hellfire?
Yeah.
Where's justice? So another hadith in Muslim, there's another narration that explains that. It's, the wording is in Arabic, فيما يبدو للناس, which means according to what people see.
Okay.
So it's like the appearance of deeds. It's not the real deeds. Like maybe you see that he's an evil person, but you don't know what's happening behind the scenes. Maybe he's a good person behind the scenes. Maybe, yes, we don't justify bad things, but maybe he has a good heart and he does like good things to other people. He takes care of his mother, or she takes care of her like sisters and so on. And as a manifestation for all of these things, Allah will make it easy for this person at the end of his life to become a good person. And the opposite is true. If I'm doing good stuff, it's according to what people see.
Okay.
Behind the scenes,
Right.
of course, behind the scenes, we make sense. That's, I don't want to disturb anyone. We all are going to make sense behind the scenes. But I mean, this is like constant. Every time I'm alone, I do bad scenes, and every time I'm just in front of people, I'm doing good deeds. So that's the characteristic of somebody who is going to have a life like this, if Allah wills, in the end. I just wanted to clarify this.
Excellent clarification.
Jazakallah khairan, jazakallah
Thank you
khairan.
very much.
And also coming back to the topic of Spain, of course, very rich, because 800 years of history. It's, if we study this era, we study the ups and downs of the Islamic like civilization that can be, we learn from our history, and that's the way we always say in our discussions, how can we learn from history and so on. This is what we can learn, that when you learn about history, the ups and downs, what are the reasons for the Muslims to become like strong?
Yeah.
Maybe science, one of them, in at that era, the political prowess, military, the unity between people, and maybe we can talk about the murabitin at that time and so on. And at the time of weaknesses, we had like in Andalusia, which is like half of the area of Egypt. It's about 500,000 kilometers, 400,000 kilometers. It's it was divided into like 20 small countries,
Wow.
states at one of the times after 500 years of Spain. So learning from this, we can start. We had a discussion before the show. We were talking about this. This can be like the beginning of this. I'm sorry if I talked a lot. And inshallah, we are gonna continue with the discussion with inshallah with our guest. But before this, we would like to introduce Brother Ali to the show. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah. You're making up for all the previous weeks and shows that we've had.
Jazakallah khair.
Yeah. So thank you very much, and thank you again, Brother Junaid.
Thank you.
And dear viewer, thank you for being with us as always. It's our honor and privilege to be here, inshallah, to talk about topics that can be interesting and informative and benefit all of us. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept the time that we spend together, this 1 hour or so, in our scale of good deeds, inshallah, for favorable outcome on the Day of Judgment. Indeed, we have a very, we're all excited about tonight's topic and our guest this evening. Let's go ahead and introduce our guest. He's been waiting patiently. We appreciate him being here. Brother Muhammad Sal, assalamu alaikum, and welcome to the show.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Thank you for having me. This is an honor for me. Jazakumullah khair.
It's our privilege to have you with us. Very interesting background. I had a chance to talk with you a little bit before we came on. You're Spanish, but you've also lived in France. Your father's from Senegal, the West African country, a Muslim majority country, Senegal is. And you grew up as a Muslim. There's lots to hear about. Let's start with your embracing Islam. Was your father Muslim? Did he raise you as a Muslim?
Okay, the thing is, obviously I was born as a Muslim with the name of Mamadou, which is a known name in West Africa, in Senegal most likely, which means or comes from all these different names, Mustafa, Muhammad, Mamdouh, all of these, like Ahmed, all of these names, you can make it as Mamadou. So I was born in Spain in 1993, and my father was Muslim at that time. Also my mother, she was Muslim, and my mother, she's a Spanish from the North Spain, and she converted to Islam. She embraced Islam 14 years after getting married to my father. So I was born as a Muslim with a Muslim name, seeing my parents pray every day, 5 times a day. But obviously, I was busy with life. I was busy, wasting my life basically, and not really giving any thoughts or thinking about the hereafter or anything that has to do with God. So I spent 14 years of my life in Spain, living, going to school, playing basketball, and when my father seen that the crisis started to become harder in Spain, and it was a little bit difficult to find jobs also as an immigrant that he was, and even if a lot of people say that it's no racism, it was a lot of racism at that time still. So my father, being a Senegalese immigrant, black, dark skin, he couldn't find a job, so he went to France. And so he stayed in Paris for 2 years. In 2003, we went to Senegal for my first time being in Senegal, in the country of my father. So we spent there for about 3 months. So it made me really, really frustrated that I couldn't speak to my family from the side of my father, my grandmother, my cousins, all of these people that I met there. And I was really surprised because my father, every person that I used to go across, he would tell me, that's your cousin, that's the son of your uncle, that's the son of. And it's really known that people in West Africa, they have a lot of children.
What language do they speak in Senegal? Is it a national language?
Yeah, in Senegal is colonized by French.
Okay.
So obviously they speak French. People who has the capacities economically to go to school, they mostly know French, so they able to speak French. But in general, they speak Wolof, which is the dialect of Senegal. So I was really frustrated that I couldn't speak to all of these people. I didn't know French and I didn't know Wolof. So and at the same time, I started to become a little bit upset with my father because he never spoke to me in Wolofia.
Yeah.
So after we came back to Spain, to Barcelona, I told my father that I wanted to go with him to France, and maybe you know, maybe I could become something professional basketball player or something.
You're quite tall. You're about almost 2 meters tall.
Yeah, I'm almost 2 meters tall. I'm 6'5". So alhamdulillah, I went to France and stayed there for 2 years. And obviously, when I got to France, I didn't really know French, and people was surprised that my name was Mamadou, which is a known West African name. And obviously, in France, most of the immigrants are Moroccans, Algerians, and Senegalese, and people from Mali. So it's a known name, Mamadou, in the population, and it's known by being a dark-skinned black man who's called Mamadou. So they were really surprised that my name was Mamadou and I was light-skinned. So we can say that people started to push me to my origins and my roots, without me wanting to.
Just because you had this name, Mahmoudou.
Exactly, yeah. So people started to ask me, also, you Mamadou, so you Senegalese, so you Muslim. And so at that time, I didn't really care about my roots, and I didn't really know that I was Muslim, or that I was born Muslim, even though my father used to push me and force me to go to Tahfidh al-Quran, to memorize Quran on Saturdays, and I used to always avoid it and leave on Saturday morning. So then I come back in the night, and I told my father that I forgot about it. I'm sorry. So even though my father was trying hard, the society and all the activities that I was doing daily, it made me busy from thinking about the hereafter. So once I got to France, the activities that I used to do in Spain, I kept doing them in France. But it was different because in Spain I was influenced, or most of my friends, they were Spanish, and obviously they were Catholics or Christians. So they didn't remind me of my roots, or I was just, random mulatto, random black dude who's my friend. But in France, obviously, I was really interesting for people because I was light-skinned. My name was Mamadou, and I was quite tall. And I come from Spain, and Spain is known that they known by playing good basketball. So I was playing basketball also. In my team, it was mostly Muslims. In my class, was mostly Muslims, and I was just started to walk with Muslims, and so they, sometimes they used to go pray. They used to, and I started to feel kind of familiar with that situation, because I used to see my parents praying at home. So alhamdulillah, I started to basically following the crowd, and little by little, obviously, you heard this, you heard that. It's not knowledge, but it's information. And obviously at that time, 9/11 was going on, the bombing in 2004 in Madrid, the train in Madrid explodes, and all of these things. At what point, when you start to become more mature, it starts to makes you think about your roots, and how is these people saying that Muslims are like this, and my father has been Muslim all my life, and my mother's Muslim, and we don't do this kind of stuff. So all of these questions made me start to made me want to seek knowledge. So alhamdulillah, after these 2 years, I went back to Spain. Sometimes I used to pray. I used to, my father used to laugh at me because he used to see my daily activities, and he would laugh at me because he wasn't taking me serious. Like, you're not gonna keep following, you're not gonna keep doing this. You're not gonna do that. So alhamdulillah, I started to do it with sincerity and hiding myself from Allah. I mean, from my father, sorry, and doing it more sincerely in between me and Allah. And that's what I think what really helped me.
So, Mamadou, I want to ask you as well. You said you went to Senegal, you went to Spain, you went to France. Did you spend Ramadan in any of these countries?
I spent one Ramadan in France. Yeah.
Okay.
I spent Ramadan in France, and I remember it was really long because in Spain it wasn't that long. But yeah, I spent one Ramadan in France, and that really influenced me because you can see it in the streets, you can see it in the schools. Even the teachers remind me of it. So it was really touching also. I think one of my first Ramadans that I actually fast, it was in France.
Okay. And it was a big impact on you becoming more practicing, coming closer to Allah.
Yeah, of course. SubhanAllah, it was a big impact. I remember one Ramadan also, I was in Spain, and a friend of mine, he told me that this was after the year after the 2 years that I spent in France. And so people in Spain, my friends, they knew that I had you know, something to do with France. They knew that I was in France. So a group of brothers, young brothers, they came to Spain to give da'wah. And this Moroccan brother from my neighborhood, who always used to see me going to the mosque when I started to actually practice, he told me that there's a group of French brothers who came and to give da'wah and this and that. And obviously being in between, with people who had knowledge or who had this will to give da'wah and convey the message of Islam, obviously made me you know, started to have more knowledge. I started to make my informations that I had into knowledge.
Okay.
And
this change that you went through, you said you started to become more sincere in your practice as a Muslim. Is that what ultimately brought you to Egypt to attend the Azhar?
No. What made me come to Egypt, I remember a speaker. I remember listening to him during Ramadan. He was talking about the people who complain that the Taraweeh is too long, and we don't understand why people cry, and we don't understand why people are so deep and have too much khushu'. And they were complaining in a way that it's no good, that it's too long, because we don't understand Arabic. So the speaker, he was saying, well, maybe the problem is with you and not with the Imam, that he's making it too long, and maybe what you want to do is to learn Arabic. So I took that as a, you know, it made sense for me. So I remember meeting a French brother whose mother or father was a Spanish in a mosque in France. And I remember being in Spain, and because in my neighborhood it wasn't a lot of young Muslims, I felt really, really lonely. So I used to travel to France sometimes, and because I knew practicing brothers there, and I used to go there and kind of try to get some iman from them and some more knowledge from them, and I used to feel good, and it was like it was my charger for my iman, basically, friends. So I met this brother, and he gave me a little pamphlet of a school in Alexandria to learn Arabic. So my first intention coming to Egypt was to learn Arabic to understand the Quran. So I came to Alexandria for 1 year, learned Arabic, then came to Cairo, and you know, entered the Azhar University. I went first in.
You answered one of my other questions. I was going to ask you in terms of the difference between the Spanish society and French society for Muslims. You said that when you were in France, you felt a stronger presence of Islam than in Spain. Is that, did I get that correctly?
No, that's correct, because I think in Europe, if I get it right, in Europe, France is the most populated by Muslims.
That's true.
Country most populated by Muslims. So and also young people there, they have, even if they're not practicing, they always have a pride for Islam, and they always defend Islam. Even maybe they may be the worst, you know, worshippers, and they may be stealing and doing whatever they may be doing,
but very proud
but
of
they
Islam.
know they proud of Islam, and they still defend Islam.
And I want to ask a question here as well, building on that question, is I sense from some of your answers that you've experienced some level of racism. I want to ask, how was your experience in Spain with racism, and also in France? Were both countries as racist as the other, or how was your experience?
No, my experience being a mixed race, you know, human being, it was kind of funny, because when I grew up in Spain, I used to be el negro, which means the black one.
That's what they used to call you?
No, they used to call me el negro. They used to call me many names: Cheetah, which means the monkey of Tarzan.
Wow.
They used to call me Boobaloo, which is a known chewing gum that sounds like Mamadou, so they used to call me Boobaloo. They used to call me different names. So I used to feel proud actually to be. No, actually at that time, my 14 years being in Spain, I didn't feel proud about being black. I just accepted what I was. Once I went to France, before going to France, I went, like I said, for these 3 months in Senegal. So when I got to Senegal, I was white. They used to call me Toubab in the streets, Toubab, 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 and and I was labeled as being white. So I didn't. I was confused. So when I went to France, I was labeled as being mixed race. I was the mixed race one. So alhamdulillah, after I met Islam, you know, I've learned that, you know, لا فرق بين عربي وأعجمي إلا بالتقوى. There's no difference in between an Arab person or a white person or a foreign person except بالتقوى. So I started to just become mindless about if I'm black or mixed race or, you know.
So is it in Spain, like, I hear that Spanish is not the only language in Spain. Like in Barcelona, you mentioned Barcelona. It's part of Catalonia, is
No,
this
Catalonia.
right? So it's this place, it has, I think, a different language. And maybe, I don't know, correct me if I'm wrong, different race. So if we have inside Spain, this is my question that's coming, maybe between Spanish people themselves, are there divisions? Not only against Muslims, I mean that maybe it's
cultural,
like, it's something inside that maybe they cannot deal with it even within themselves.
Yeah, there's divisions between Spanish. You have the Bascos, which are from the Basque territory, and you have the Gallegos from Galicia, and you have the Catalans from Catalonia, which I'm from. I'm Catalan, and my mom's Catalan and my grandmother's Catalan, so we speak Catalan at home. And with my father, I speak Spanish because, well, he says he can speak Catalan, but he can't in reality. But yeah, I'm Catalan, and the thing is that you get many different situations, many racist situations. Like, for example, me as a mixed race, the light-skinned black man, I get the racism as if I go into a bakery shop, for example, and I say hola bon dia, I speak in Catalan. I know she speaks Catalan, I speak Catalan to her. She may answer to me in Spanish. And this means, like, you're not from here, so I speak to you in Spanish, maybe you don't understand Catalan.
Wow.
And if I answer to her again in Catalan, some people, they may still talk to you in Spanish, like, you're not from here, so stop speaking in Catalan. And it happened to me before that I say, what do you answer to me in Spanish, and I'm talking to you in Catalan. So you have this kind of tensions in between Spanish and Catalans and Gallegos. Also, Gallegos, they have their own language, and Basque also, they have their own language. And you know, it comes back to when Franco was the dictator of Spain. And actually, my grandmother, she's 93 years old, and so her husband, my grandmother and her husband lived into the war of Franco against the Catalans, and the Catalans wanted to be an independent country. So this made all of these tensions in between. But it's most likely it happens more with old people.
Mohammed, I'd like to go back to what you said earlier about the difference between feeling Islam more in France than in Spain. I'm wondering if there's a historical root in this, because of, we were talking about Reconquista. At the end of the Muslim presence, the last years of the 15th century, 1491, 1492, there was this movement by the Roman Catholic monarchs to erase Islam. And edicts were issued forcing Muslims and Jews to do one of two things, either leave or accept death. I'm sorry, convert to Catholicism or leave.
Okay.
And there was a threat of death, you know, if you didn't comply.
The Inquisition also, the Inquisition period, like to notice if where are the Muslims, because sometimes Muslims try to cover up their identity, and they try to go and invade the room, like in rooms.
People would quote unquote convert to save their lives, and to, you know, if they had family, maybe they, right. So there was a deliberate campaign to erase Islam and erase Muslim identity. Do you think that that's a relationship between you saying, that you didn't feel Islam as much in Spain?
I know definitely that at that time a lot of Muslims, they said that they will convert to Christianity, and they were still Muslims at home, hiding from all of these people. But to what you say, I don't think it's because of that Islam is not as stronger as France, but I think it's more because of I guess people practice in the way they practice and the level and the efforts they give to. I think in France they give more efforts, and also sometimes when the government is more
It's more
you know,
secular,
it's
maybe.
yeah, they fight more against Muslims. It makes Muslims stronger.
More aggressive. Okay.
Exactly. So in Spain, we don't really, the governments, we can say they cool, not like the other governments.
And can you talk about the geography or the breakdown of Muslims in Spain? Do we have a lot of Muslims in Spain, and what backgrounds are the Muslims they're from?
Right now in Spain is from the population of 46.5 million of Spanish, 1.7 million of this population are Muslim.
Okay.
530,000 of this 1.7 million are rivers to Islam. So it's a big amount of rivers in Spain, and the rest of it, 40% are Moroccans.
Okay.
After the Moroccans are the Pakistanis. With the Bengalis, but mainly Pakistanis. Then you have the Senegalese and the Algerians, and you have a few Nigerians and a few other people from West Africa, but mainly from Senegal and Gambia and Morocco. So that's the breakdown of Muslims now in Spain.
Okay, very nice. I actually have some relatives in Spain as well, so the Pakistanis managed to get to all the corners of the world.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
This, in terms of this history, I mean, it's very, it excites our imagination as Muslims about Tariq in the year 711, leading Muslims across the Strait of Gibraltar. It's very exciting for us. What about the government curriculum in the schools? How do they deal with this subject?
To be honest, I don't remember. I was a really bad student when I was studying in Spain, so I don't remember. And also, I went to a Catholic school, so we used to study more about Catholicism, and they always try to erase any kind of. I actually never heard about or read in school about any history of what happened with the Muslims. We always heard from after the Reconquista until the day. Till now, the 21st century. So they always try to erase and not remember and keep only the benefits, like the monuments of the Muslims and whatever was, from the Muslim that was good, stay with us, and whatever.
We want to benefit for tourism. Because
when you walk down now after your reading and understanding of Islam and Islamic history in Andalus, when you think back now, are there things in the streets or on the roads that actually you think, oh, this is from Islamic Spain?
No.
Do they remind you of Islam?
Yeah, a lot. I know in Barcelona is a little bit less. Maybe some names in some streets and names of people, but the roots and what Muslims left are most of what they left is in the south, in places like Malaga, in Arabic Malaga or Cordoba, or most like Sevilla and all of these south cities, and some names of some cities like Almeria,
Balad al-Walid.
Valladolid.
That's a very Arabic name.
Yeah.
Almost Egyptian.
You have a lot of names from cities that stays, steal from the Muslims.
You've been studying Arabic. As you've been studying Arabic, have you been discovering that there are connections to the Spanish language? How much have you seen that as you study Arabic?
A lot, subhanAllah, is it was pretty easy for me to learn Arabic, subhanAllah. A lot of people from my friends who don't know Arabic, they say, oh, Arabic's too hard, and I understand them, because Arabic for me before it was just like but after you learn, you see that it's actually, subhanAllah, really easy to learn, because you have a few rules, and from these rules you decide how much knowledge you want to know about the language, about memorizing the tasrifat and dhahaba yadhhabu idhhab and all of these different verbs and the synonyms, al-mutaradifat wal-addad. So it was really easy for me, subhanAllah, and I've seen the relation in a lot of words, regular words like thukar, sukar, or asira.
Sugar in English.
Yeah.
It's very
asira, athera, the place where where you walk in the street, or you know, a lot of other names, subhanallah, that I don't have in you know, Ad-Dar, the Al-Bayt, you know, in La Casa, in all of these places, all of these names, regular daily names that you use, they from the.
I've seen this. The percentage of overlap is pretty significant. I think, I don't know if you've seen it, at least 25, maybe 30% of the words in Spanish language come from Arabic.
No, subhanallah. Yeah.
All
I'm
right,
not surprised.
let's take a short break here, or let's watch a report together. Then when we come back, we'll continue with our discussion. So, dear viewers, let's move over to our report for the evening, our last report on this program. And then, inshallah, when we come back, we'll continue with our discussion with our guests and also look at some of the history and some of the challenges that Muslims are facing in Spain. So, we'll see you all in a few moments.
And in His name we die, here and there.
Let me tell you about a society which had bigger masjids than you had, which had bigger scholars than you had, which had bigger darlooms than you had. This was Muslim Spain. It had far bigger masjids than you had. Qurtuba, in the height of its flowering, had over 600 masjids. And recently, a couple of years, 19 of us from this masjid went to Qurtuba, where there were 600 masjids. We found one, and that was closed. Why? What happened? Because these were people who forgot Allah, and Allah made them forget themselves. And you look at the scholars of Spain. Who were the scholars of Spain? There were the likes of Ibn Hazm, there were the likes of Imam Qurtubi, there were the likes of Ibn Abdul Barr, there were the thinkers like Ibn Sina, Ibn Rushd. These were people who were the backbone of Islamic learning. There were no greater scholars than these in the history of Islam. And Andalus, Spain, was built on the model of Medina. And as long as their focus remained on Medina, they flourished. But when their focus turned toward the dunya, then that same progressive society sank, because the Muslims were not created for the dunya. The Muslims were not created for the dunya. The Muslims were created for the hereafter. We are Abdullah. We are the slaves of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the highest status that we can reach is that we will remain the slaves of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This very society, Spain, when their own people, their focus became the dunya, then every single person was concerned about himself. He was concerned about his own kursi. And the narrations mention that the rulers of Spain, what they would do, that the Muslims would actually make treaties with the Christians, and they would fight against their own Muslims. They would fight against their own Muslims. And really, these were the Abu Righals of that time. And throughout history, you will find Abu Righal. Do you know who Abu Righal was? Do you know who Abu Righal was? Abu Righal was a man who lived in Taif. And when Abraha, the Yemeni Christian governor, came to destroy the Kaaba, Abu Righal told him, look, I'll show you where the Kaaba is as long as you give me a few pounds. So Abraha agreed. When Abu Righal reached the outskirts of Makkah, he died. And what the Arabs would do, they would pelt his grave with stones, because he was a man who was ready to sell his religion and his people for $1 and a dime. And until today, the Arabs say, if they see a person of a deceptive nature, they say, "Huwa Abu Righal." He's Abu Righal. And these were the Abu Righals of that time. And one place after the other fell in Muslim Spain. One place after the other, until there was only one place left, and that was Granada. And Granada fell 50 years after the rest of Spain. Until Abu Muhammad, he drew a treaty with the Christians on the condition that he would allow them to take over, on the condition that they would not persecute the Muslims, that they would not forcefully convert the Muslims, that they would not remove the Muslims from their post. And when the Christians came in, the first thing they did, they reneged on their promise. And when they entered the Alhambra Palace, have you seen the Alhambra Palace? Wallahi, when you look at the Alhambra Palace, the eyes marvel at the architecture and artistry. It is an amazing palace, and throughout the palace you will see one word, La Ghaliba illallah, that dominance is only for the sake of Allah. Dominance is only for the sake of Allah. Where are those people who wrote La Ghaliba illallah? Where are those people? See, La Ghaliba, the engraving remained on the walls, but the reality of it was removed from their hearts. And the reality is that the Alhambra Palace, to a great degree, encompasses the decline of the Muslim Ummah, whilst the mud hut in which Umar ibn Khattab radiallahu anh lived embodies the spirit of Islam. And really, When these Christians, they walked into the Al-Hamra, they found the highest place that they could find, and they erected a crucifix there. And when Abu Muhammad saw this, he began to cry. He began to cry, and his mother rebuked him. She said, why are you crying like a woman when you couldn't defend it like a man? Why are you crying like a woman when you couldn't defend it like a man? And this is our state today, really. We whinge about everything. We blame everybody else besides ourselves. We blame the Christians, we blame the Jews, we blame everybody else. But it's one person we don't blame, it's us. We even blame time. The zamana yesaya. As the Arabic poet says, it's a na'ibu zamanana wal aibu fina wa ma li zamanina aibun siwana. He said, we find fault in time, but the reality is that the fault lies within us. And if there was any one fault in time, it is that it has to carry the likes of me and you. That's the only fault with time. لا تكونوا كالذين نسوا الله فأنساهم أنفسهم. Do not be like those who forgot Allah and Allah made them forget themselves.
In His name we die, here and there.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome back, dear viewers. After watching that short report, I don't know about you, but when I saw that, I felt motivated, enthusiastic. I felt proud of my history, knowing that, subhanAllah, Muslims, they produced so much civilization, they developed so many sciences, they were the foundation of the modern world. And subhanAllah, how important it is. All of the brothers here were saying as well that sometimes we feel so disconnected with our history, and only if the world really understood and knew the real history and how the world got to where it is today, we will be completely different. But anyway, on that note, let's continue with our discussion. Brother Ali, I think you had a really interesting question. I want to come to you.
Well, we can pick up where what you were just speaking on.
Sure.
This disconnect from a more complete history. And I was asking, you know, what are the core reasons why, you know, Brother Muhammad was just talking about the Catholic Church in Spain suppressing certain types of knowledge that point to the greatness of Muslims. But it's not just the Catholic, the Spanish Catholics. It's throughout the European countries and the United States and Canada. The question was, why is there this concerted effort to create an alternate history, an alternate historical narrative? What is the underlying reason for this? That was the question.
Brother Mamdu, you can go first.
I mean, I think you know, you have shayateen al-ins, you have the devils, or the devils sometimes they use human beings to actually make people blind about the truth and not let them, you know, to make them ghafil, to make them mindless about whatever comes after death. So obviously, you know, people just making people or blocking people to know about their history and the history that Muslims left behind them is also from the, you know, is a work of shaitan. He uses people for them to not know the truth, and obviously so shaitan doesn't go by himself to hellfire. But you know, any human being who has intellect and who reflects, and like Allah says that we have revealed this book for you to reflect upon. If you reflect about the history also, and you just need to open a book and actually you just need to go to Spain basically and look at how these people at that time they were able to construct all of this beautiful and really specific in a specific way, and you know, until now surprise people by the knowledge they had.
And it's not only in history itself, the academic discipline of history. It applies to every academic discipline.
Yeah.
When you look at mathematics, for example, and they talk about the history of who discovered this theorem or developed this, you know, this part of mathematics, you know, any contribution by an Arab in algebra, I mean, that whole history is deleted from the mathematics books. You move over to the natural sciences, the same thing. Any contributions or works, no matter how significant, by non-Europeans is excluded from any academic subject.
Or the name is changed from an Arabic
Yes.
name into a more kind of Western kind of name, so there's no connection.
Yeah, and it's known also that when the Reconquista happened, a known incident that happened is that when the Christians came and finally got what they wanted, they took the books that were benefit from them from a secular point, like the medicine and architecture and all of this stuff. They would take them and change the names to their own names, or either in the rest of books like fiqh and aqidah and all the other funun, all the other subjects, they will burn them because they don't really want people to know that vast knowledge that they left behind them. So it was known that they used to burn books, and this comes from all the way 1492 until now. They try to do the same thing.
One of the examples of changing the name is one of the most famous scientists, Al-Khwarizmi.
Yes.
And if you notice, it's very close to algorithms. So it's actually Al-Khwarizmiyat, but we translate it to Logarithmet, which we shouldn't translate. It's actually in Arabic, But I wanted to answer the question of Brother Ali, and by taking from what Brother Junaid was saying, they want to have an image of the Muslims as they are cavemen. And why is this? Because they want to kill hope inside us, that there is no hope to come back. And the biggest hope can come when we go and study back our history. We can give an example of Andalusia. Andalusia, it stayed for about 800 years. But after 500 years, in the introduction we talked about the division between Muslims and small countries and so on. But that wasn't the end of the story. The Dawlat al-Murabitin, the state of Murabitin, that was in the North Africa, that started only by two people, Abdullah ibn Yasin and Yusuf ibn Tashfin. Only two people. North Africa was literally just getting outside of Islam. They were Muslims, but they are just by name. But the action, so many horrible actions were done by them. They can drink in Ramadan, they can do horrible stuff. And they started, they didn't say there is no hope. They went, and Yusuf Tashfin, by the way, was 90-something years old. He wasn't like a young person. And by starting this, he made a small country by just giving da'wah. People just accepted him, and he had an army and so on, to the extent that he helped Andalusia not to fall. He went into Andalusia and helped those kings stop fighting. We were gonna fight there was a kingdom called Oregon. At that time, it was it's now part of France and so on. They fought it, and they built Andalusia again, if we can say this, for 300 years. So if somebody studies this, a Muslim, he's gonna say, why don't I do that? Why Yusuf Tashfin is better than me? Why Abdullah ibn Yasin is better than me? I can do it. Just one maybe viewer is watching us, he can say, I can start doing something right now.
Okay, we've got a phone call, so let's take this and we'll come back. We have with us Sister Maggie calling from Egypt. Assalamu alaikum, sister.
Yeah, wa alaikum assalam, Brother Junaid.
How are you?
I'm doing fine, thank you. I just reflected with you on the Eid Mubarak.
Eid Mubarak to you as well.
Thank you. I'm sorry related to the topic at hand, but because it's the last episode, I just felt obliged to call and just thank you all for presenting such a great program. And I'm sure I'm speaking on behalf of all the viewers as well. We've learned so much, and you all inspired us all with the topics and discussions. And I just hope that Allah accepts from you and emoji for all your work. And lastly, may Allah make this a blessed Eid for us all. And may He help the Ummah and cure all our sick. And may Allah cure your mother, Brother Junaid, and grant her a full and speedy recovery, inshallah.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Sister Maggie. I'm trying to hold back the tears and remain strong here in front of the camera, but thank you very much. Your prayer reaches the heart. I'd like to wish you and your whole family a very happy Eid, and the whole channel is very thankful for your comments as well, and we thank you for watching as well. Let's move on.
Yeah, very touching. One more question about the history. We were talking about history. I asked your opinion, Brother Muhammad, when Muslims first arrived in the Americas. It's been ingrained in us by this colonial imperial history that it was Christopher Columbus in 1492 who discovered America. But we now know that many peoples were in the Americas prior to the 15th century. Even the Vikings in the 11th century made it to North America. And of course, Africans from Mali and Andalusian Muslims, many people, but we're taught and it's drilled in us that it was Christopher Columbus, 1492. What is your take on this? When do you believe Muslims and Islam reached the Americas? And what about your friends and generally those in the Muslim community in France and in Spain? What is their consensus?
I mean, we all Muslims, we're supposed to be mutafa'ilin, you know, we're supposed to be positive and have good thoughts. And I believe that, you know, my brothers in Islam at that time, they had enough, you know, ijtihad, and they gave enough efforts to get to, they got all the way to Sin, so they probably got before Columbus to the Americas also. So that's my opinion.
And did they not go from Spain to Hajj? So they must have had some kind of roots on understanding how to monitor themselves around Africa and to get to the Arabian world.
Right.
Interesting, isn't it? How we are taught one thing, but the reality is very different.
Yeah.
And I remember myself also when we were in school and we were taught history. Throughout my whole years of studying history, I was never once taught about the Ottoman Empire, for example, or Islamic Spain, 700-800 years. So, you know, subhanAllah, it's very interesting. As you start practicing more and more, you start learning more and more about your history and your religion.
Yeah, like we were saying, you know, they always try to not talk about it, but they always keep the benefits that they get material you know, benefits from. Like, for example, we were talking about the monuments. It was told by experts in 2016 Spain was one of the most visited countries in the world with 75.3 million tourists. And in the top 10 monuments that were visited, the first one was the Al-Hamra in Granada, in Granada. The second one was Sagrada Familia in Masiri in Barcelona, which is a church. And the third one was the great mosque of Cordoba. So you know, obviously, like you said, and I also know by experience that one of my friends, he went there and he tried to pray rak'atain. He tried to pray 2 rak'ahs in the mosque, and the security guard, he came straight away and he said, no, you cannot pray here, you have to go outside and pray outside. So they made the masjid into a madhaf, into a museum. So obviously now you have to pay to get in there and to just to look at what the Muslims left behind them. But yeah, it's really sad that they don't want to talk about it actually.
Okay, and we are coming towards the end of the program, and I want to touch on some things. First one is Ramadan. How do Spanish Muslims celebrate Ramadan? How easy is it for them to pray Taraweeh and do all the things with Ramadan?
Alhamdulillah, I think in Spain they're really easy when it comes to letting Muslims express or, you know, show the Islam. It's not like in France where the streets, they get packed in Jummah, just Jummah, not even Eid, just Jummah. Is some mosque in Paris where you can even walk in during the prayer because it's full of Muslims praying everywhere. So in Spain, alhamdulillah, you know, we're really quiet and we really, you know, everybody is quiet about their faith. And like the mosque in my neighborhood, for example, in Barcelona, is a garage. So the doors are really open. We just have a sitara, and you can hear the imam reciting in the mic, and everybody can hear it. And even the tourists, when they pass by the mosque, they can hear the prayer, and they look at the mosque, what is going on. And alhamdulillah, it's really easy for us to practice our religion in Ramadan in Spain.
Are the numbers of Muslims also increasing there? Would you say they're doing well?
I would say that in Spain, yeah, they're increasing like in the rest of the world. And I would say thanks for whoever is doing this terror attacks and all of this stuff, because they actually, if they trying to harm Islam, in reality they helping a lot of people to open their eyes and to know about what really is going on and what really Islam is.
Of course, and as we are fully aware that Islam does not encourage any of these acts, and whoever does plan and plot these things, we are against that. But the consequences of that does improve.
Because I believe that it's not the people who's doing this, they know even Muslims.
Of course,
I believe that they know Muslims, and even some of the terror attacks, they may be even, as a theater.
Yeah.
Just to make people think that it's Muslims actually doing this.
Sometimes
But obviously,
it's
as Muslims, we don't call to this, and we are against totally to terror attacks, and we believe in living all together, and not fighting against each other.
What about halal food? Is it easier to get halal food? Are there halal restaurants in France and in Spain?
Yeah, in Spain is halal restaurants and halal butchers. But most of the brothers who have these stores are Moroccan brothers, and you have a few restaurants, few Senegalese restaurants in Barcelona. But yeah, it's really easy, alhamdulillah, to get halal meat in Europe in general. Yeah.
All right, excellent. It's that time of the program
Yeah.
where I have to thank you all. But before I say my goodbyes, I want to go around the table, and this time a slightly different question. Brother Omar, starting with yourself. We've been here for the last 30 days roughly, talking on a number of subjects, going to different countries, Spain, Indonesia, so on and so forth. What's been your peak of this program? Take your time.
Okay. I just want to start by saying that what I felt when you asked this question, Brother Junaid, that it's a blessing that I was in this program, because it's Allah's will to make me among this blessed team, because it's not my choice actually. It's what Allah wanted me to be. So it's an honor for me. This is the beginning. And the second thing that I have learned a lot from you, Brother Junaid, and also from Brother Ali. MashaAllah, are veterans here in the channel. And this is really from my heart. So I'm just a beginner. So I'm just learning from both of you. And from the program and the content of it, so mashallah, it was like it had different topics and different. We talked about different angles. And maybe Brother Ali was talking from the political perspective. You, Brother Junaid, you were talking about it from the social perspective. So it was like we had this different angles from everyone.
Well,
so I really liked it too much. And I also felt that the different races between the Muslims and how we deal with each other. When we hear like from the brother now, he's from the same country, and then maybe under the same like sky in the same country, and they have racism against themselves. Yeah. But we had like different countries among us. We had like warmth between us, and we didn't feel like we were talking with somebody with a different skin color or somebody with a different like background or race. We didn't have this feeling. So this is all what I want to say.
All right, excellent. Thank you very much, and we appreciate that as well, very much as well. Brother Ali, take your time, and if you could answer the same question, what's been your peak of the last 30 days?
Well, going into the program, I said in the first show that my favorite aspect of this, we had two main focuses. We would talk about, various parts of being a Muslim, the things that we all have to deal with, learning to be patient, learning to be kind and merciful towards one another, all these kinds of quote-unquote religious things, character development issues, encouraging ourselves to pursue taqwa, piety, so on and so forth. But then there's this multicultural part, the human diversity focus, which has brought Brother Muhammad and several other brothers to the program. I said at the outset that this was my favorite part.
Wow.
I truly enjoy interacting with, learning about brothers and sisters from various backgrounds, cultural, ethnic, and national backgrounds, and I have really enjoyed. And now we've probably had about 5 different countries to come. We had Nigeria and Indonesia, the United States, Britain, France, and now Spain. So that's about 6 actually.
Yeah.
And I want more. So it's been an honor for me to be here, to interact with brothers from different parts of the Muslim world who have come to Egypt. And the 3 of us represent that diversity.
Yeah.
Britain, a Pakistani Brit, an African American, and an Arab Egyptian. This is what Allah created human diversity for.
Wow.
For us to know each other, to learn to appreciate each other, to overcome our differences and work together towards greatness in Allah's sight. And to be a part of it is a great honor and privilege for me.
Okay, yeah. Thank you very much, Brother Ali. And finally, Brother Muhammad, if I can ask you to just give some
but you
words.
didn't say Brother Junaid. We want to hear you.
Let's hear from Brother Mamadou, and then I'll give you a few words. Brother Mamadou, what would you say to us, advice to the Muslim Ummah as a whole? You've traveled different countries, different experiences. Just very briefly, what advice would you give to the Muslims?
Now, I would just advise the Muslims that they stick strong to the hablillah, the rope of Allah, and you know, always keep their identity wherever they are. They learn, practice, call to it, and have patience to whatever can happen after you apply these three things that I just said. So, and for the Muslims in Spain, I will say that for us to become like the Muslim communities in UK and in America and in France, I will say that they should stop to be this kind of racism in between Moroccans and Senegalese and Pakistanis, because everyone have their own community and their own mosques and their own. I even read a few days ago about a mosque called the Mosque of the Africans. So I believe that this shouldn't be happening in 2017, and this will make us actually stronger, and it will let people understand better about Islam.
Okay, thank you very much, Brother Mamadou, as well. On that note, I want to say thank you very much for coming to the studio. Inshallah, we will hopefully see you again.
Inshallah.
Okay, I'll give my 2 minutes worth
All right.
in the end as well.
We're waiting for it.
We're waiting for it. But I want to thank you as well, guys, for everything. And dear viewers, I want to talk to the camera and address everyone at the same time. For me, I've really thoroughly enjoyed this program here and there. I've done a number of programs here on Huda TV, but this definitely has to be from amongst the best of programs that I've done. One of those that matches with that was when me and Brother Ali did a coverage of Hajj some years ago. I'm sure he hasn't forgotten that. That was beautiful as well. But this Ramadan was very special. We got to see different guests, get to listen to their experiences. One of the sad things that I must admit that we've experienced from pretty much most of our guests is that racism is rampant, and that's a fact. The fact that the way non-whites are treated around the world in different countries is unacceptable, and really this is something that we must overcome. We are Muslims, and even if you're not a Muslim, it's just unacceptable that we must be treated the same. But at the same time, I'm also very happy to have Brother Omar with me every single day. He says he learned from me, but the reality is I learned from him. He came with scientific facts, he came with investigations, he came with, what's more important is he came with a beautiful smile, and he's always carrying that smile, so I appreciate that very much. And also Brother Ali, I haven't really said this to him before, but really he is my elder, and I respect Brother Ali very much. He's very mature and very focused on his work, and that's very inspiring, because sometimes I'm not so focused, but Brother Ali is very focused, and he motivates us and drives us to work and to perfect our work. And I want to thank you, Brother Ali. I've never said it before, but I thank you very much for being an inspiration to us all here on the channel. I want to thank all those people as well who are watching, and one of my peak really of the program is to be with you. Honestly, I really enjoy sitting here and talking, knowing that people are watching and people are benefiting, because this is the point, that we as Muslims, we want to benefit the Ummah. You just saw us talking about Spain, you saw those clips on Spain. That's what we want to revive. That's what we are. That's Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave the Muslims that torch, and we have to carry that light forward. It's our responsibility. Everyone must work, establish Islam, establish justice, establish learning. We must lead the way when it comes to civilization. I want to thank all of you for tuning in and being with us throughout this whole program. A big special thank you to the Huda team. They don't get the thanks they deserve. Those sitting behind the cameras, those who are shouting in my earpiece right now, those who are jumping behind the camera as well, we want to thank you all very much. And I ask Allah sincerely from the depth of my heart to accept all the efforts of everybody who is part of the Huda team. Wallahi, if I was to tell you how much these people work, what they earn, what they do, you would think it's just unbelievable. The efforts they put in is amazing. May Allah accept from everybody in Huda TV, those in front of the cameras, those behind the cameras, and those watching. I thank you all very much. And finally, I want to thank Sister Maggie as well and her family for making dua for myself and for my mother. Believe it or not, I'm actually finding it very difficult to speak, but I'm going to continue speaking. I want to thank you all. Please do continue praying for my mother. She is in a very critical situation. I ask Allah to make her situation easy and make her affairs easy as well. And thank you very much. We will conclude here. Inshallah ta'ala, we'll see you in a new program. Don't forget, on Eid Day, we have an Eid special. You're going to enjoy that program. So, inshallah ta'ala, until our next program. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
His name we live, and in His name we die. Here and there, our souls prostrate to their Creator. And creatures do zikr all the time. Here and there, humans circumambulate while migrating birds stretch forth their wings, finding their way by Allah's mercy. Here and there, our Prophet advised us to travel, seeking knowledge, while exploring Allah's miraculous creations. Here and there, la 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 la.